Angola is the shooting star of the African football world. New stadiums throughout the country, colorful scenes on the terraces, a stable economic background. Welcome to football in Angola. Hello and welcome to Footour, your football world trip around the globe here on YouTube. I'm your host Björn, and today we take a journey to Southern Africa. Angola is a football crazy nation and the sport is the most popular in the country, followed by basketball. Even though Angola is not considered to be one of the top football destinations of Africa, yet they are on their way. Like the country itself, the Angolan football is thriving due to the sheer amount of oil and diamond resources the country owns. So let's start with a short look on the historic development of football in Angola. Portuguese settlers brought the game we love to the country in the early stages of the 20th century. Angola was a Portuguese colony until 1975. While football was mostly played in a recreational kind of way in the first stage of the 20th century, documented tournaments within the country started in 1941. Most successful club of the colonial times is Sporting de Luanda, a chapter club of Portuguese powerhouse Sporting. Sporting Club wasn't the only club invested in the former colonies. Eternal rival Benfica even has chapters in Angola until today. The transfer of power from the former colonial rule to the new independent state didn't go as smooth like in other former Portuguese colonies. Different liberation groups got into immediate scuffle about who is in charge. The result was a civil war that lasted until 2002 and cost the life of estimated 500,000 people. And even though there was a civil war going on, the first edition of the National League in independent Angola was played out in 1979, with Primero de Agosto winning the first championship. The club of the military is one of the driving forces of the National League until today, but more on that a little later in the domestic competition section. Angola was granted the privilege of hosting the African Cup of Nations in 2010. What should have been a festival of joy turned tragic just 2 days before the start of the tournament, when the Togolese national team was attacked on their way to Cabinda, an enclave north to the mainland, where the matches of Togo's Group B were scheduled to be played. A militia group that fights for the liberation of the enclave took responsibility for the attack. The assistant coach, press spokesman and bus driver sadly lost their lives, while several players and staff members of the team were injured. Understandably, Togo withdrew from the competition that at the end was won by Egypt. Angola made it past the group stages, but lost in the first round of the knockout stages 0-1 against Ghana. So let's have a closer look on the federation and the national team. The Angolan Football Federation, in short FAF, was officially founded in 1979 and is a member of FIFA and the CAF since 1980. The first match was played in 1976, a close 2-3 defeat against Congo. The biggest victory was a 7-1 against Swaziland, nowadays Eswatini, and the highest defeat was a 0-6 against Portugal. The biggest achievement was reaching the World Cup tournament of 2006 in Germany, where they had to pack their bags after the group stages. 2 draws and 1 defeat against former colonial power Portugal wasn't enough. On the continental stage, Angola qualified 8 times for the African Cup of Nations, and the best results were reaching the quarterfinals in 2008 and 2010. At the lesser-known African Nations Championship, a similar tournament to the African Cup of Nations, Angola's best result was reaching the final in 2011. But they lost the deciding match 0-3 against Tunisia. Nevertheless, there are some trophies in the cabinet of the Angolan Football Federation, since they won the regional tournament, the CAF Cup, 3 times. The CAF Cup is a regional tournament of the Southern African nations. Angola gets equipped by Portuguese manufacturer Lacatoni, and if you take a look on the jersey designs, it seems like a perfect match. Not just a template, it's a beautiful design with elements of Angola's cultural heritage. The national league is called Girabola and can be roughly translated to turning ball. The term was first used in 1960 by Portuguese radio host Rui de Carvalho, and it was a sign of protest against the colonial power. It consists of 16 teams and is the top level of domestic football in Angola. The league champion and the runners-up qualify for the CAF Champions League, while the third-place club qualifies for the CAF Confederations Cup. The 3 last-ranked clubs get relegated into the second division, the Gira Angola, sometimes called Segundona. Most successful clubs to this date are the clubs from the capital city, Luanda. Atletico Petroleros has won the championship 15 times. Primero de Agosto follows close behind with 13 championships. Both sides are by far the most followed clubs in the country. Matches between them are well visited, and if the clubs travel the country for away games, you can be sure that the host stadium is packed with supporters of the Luanda-based clubs. Recreativo de Libolo was the driving force of Angolan football in the first stage of the 2010er years, when they won 4 championships between 2011 and 2015. Most clubs have financial backings of big corporations or institutions. 2013 champion Kabuscorp, for example, relies on the businessman Bento Kangamba and his company. The club's name is an acronym for Kangamba Business Corporation. The Brazilian legend Rivaldo had a short stint at the club in 2012, and even though it was the biggest signing in Angola's club football history, it brought serious trouble to the club, since they failed to pay his salary in time. On decision by FIFA, Kabuscorp had to relegate to the second division after the failed payment. And another tragic story about Kabuscorp: 23 fans sadly lost their life in 2012 when their bus got into a road accident after their away match at Recreativo de Libolo. And those aren't the only fatalities in Angolan football, but more on that a little later. The latest Angolan champion is Sagrada Esperanca, their second championship after 2005. Next to the league, the Taça de Angola, the national cup competition, is another chance to put some silverware into the club's cabinets. And even here, Petroleus is the most successful club with 11 trophies. When it comes to their participations in the continental tournaments of Africa, the Angolan clubs didn't have much success to this point. No club managed to win any continental competition. No Champions League, no Confederation Cup. But maybe in the future. Angola developed into a good destination for foreign and domestic footballers. A decent football infrastructure, a stable national competition, and salaries that can be compared to middle-sized European football nations. Monthly salaries can range up to $15,000 at the top clubs. Sounds really decent, but you have to keep in mind that the cost of living, especially in the capital of Luanda, are comparable with the most expensive cities in the world. Aqua is a record goal scorer of the Angolan national team with 39 goals in 78 matches. He became Angola's Sportsman of the Year in 2005, and he won the Qatari Championship in 1999 and the Angolan Championship in 2008 and 2009. Flavio is Angola's record player with 91 caps. Especially fans of Egyptian side Al Ahly will remember him, since he became 4 times Egyptian champion and even won the African Champions League 3 times. Clinton Mata of FC Bruges currently has the highest value of all Angolan players with around $12 million. Anderson Lukoki of German Bundesliga side Mainz decided to play for Angola, and there even is another player of Angolan heritage in Germany. Niklas Wilson Sommer of 3rd Division side Waldhof Mannheim. Next to his career as a professional footballer, he is somewhat of a social media star in Germany. And I guess his fanboys would love to invest into Angola's shirt with his name printed on the back. Angola's football infrastructure is in a transformational phase at the moment. More and more modern grounds pop up like mushrooms, while smaller clubs from the provinces still play on pitches that look more like grazing fields than playable pitches. The most modern arena is the National Stadium, the 11th of November Stadium with a capacity of 48,000. It was opened in 2009 and was the main venue for the 2010 African Cup of Nations. Other new multi-purpose stadiums were built in Lubango, Cabinda and Benguela that look oddly similar. On the other end of the scale, you can find the 4th of January Stadium in Uige. That has one basic main stand, while the rest of the terraces are grass-overgrown hills. Primero de Agosto is currently renovating their 20,000-seater Estadio Franca Indalu. A general update on the domestic sports facilities is absolutely necessary. Several stadium tragedies of the past make it obvious. Let's check out the fans in Angola. Primero de Agosto and Atlético Petróleos are the 2 magnets of support. Both clubs gather the most fans behind them. I personally really dig the aesthetics of the Primero de Agosto fans, since they incorporate the military identity in a colorful, joyful way. And one thing that the Europeans hate are necessary for every stadium visit in Angola: the vuvuzela. In my opinion, football in Angola is on the rise. It already can be considered as a top 10 destination of African football, and as long as the economy of the country is thriving, so is Angola's football. But it's important to address certain things that might hinder the streamlined development. Corruption in Angolan society is omnipresent, and the Angolan football has a history of failing to pay salaries in time. The clubs rely heavily on the money of the resource-exploiting companies or state institutions, which means that one major blow to the nation's economy can bring the whole league to a standstill. But since the world is still hungry for oil and shiny diamonds, Angola's football and its development for the future seem pretty safe for the moment. Alright guys, that's it for the Angola episode. Thank you so much for staying until the end. Please consider to leave a like on this video and to follow the channel if you want to join me on the Footour World Tour. Our next destination, beautiful Anguilla. My name is Björn. This is Footour. Have a nice day.